Being a single mom and doing it all by yourself is brutal. Learn the brain and energy tools to get back to your center and overcome your challenges. Welcome to this new episode of what used to be Date Like a French Woman and is now called Single and Doing It All. This episode is for you if you want to feel more at ease in your body, release your stress, if you're a busy woman and you know that you need to dedicate some time to self-care. So that's what we're going to talk today through the medium of yoga. Before I go and introduce my guest to you, I want to let you know that if you didn't catch the episode where I explain why I did the shift with the podcast and what it is going to bring to you, you can go and check it out. You can just put the comment podcast here and you'll receive the link. And the other thing is, if you're watching on replay, don't be invisible. Just put hashtag replay in the comment and I'll come and say hi. You can put comments and questions. I always come back to answer. And if you put it during the show, it will be addressed at the end of the show. If you want to be notified next time I go live, same thing. Put a comment with the word notify and you will be added to the list for you to receive a message before I go live. So this morning, let's go to meet our guest. Her name is Viviane Wolfe. And Viviane is an online yoga teacher and coach who helps business-minded women and female entrepreneurs, but many more women as well, to feel more confident and successful with the system of yoga. She has practiced yoga for 10 years while working as a medical administrator for doctors and chiropractors, while performing in dance, theater, and stunts. For the last 5 years, she has taught yoga to women, helping them to ease stress and release tension so that they can build and grow their businesses with clarity and confidence. Welcome, Viviane. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. We tried to launch the episode a little bit earlier and we ran into technical problems. I think it's better now. It's
Right.
before we go into the yoga, I would love it if you could tell us your story with yoga and how did you end up doing what you do today?
Sure. Well, as I said earlier, I'm kind of a movement junkie. I've always loved moving my body. I've been a dancer. I've been a sword fighter. I've done stunts professionally. I, of course, did theater and all of that kind of stuff most of my life. And then while I was in a professional dance company working, we had a yoga teacher come in, and that was my first real introduction to yoga, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the combination of movement with meditation and how it made you feel better instead of worn out and drained. It made you feel energized and relaxed. So about 10 years ago, I started practicing seriously, and then about 5 years ago, I started teaching. And then about 2 years, oh gosh, has it been 2 years now? 2 years ago, I started teaching online. And so that's kind of how this kind of came about.
And I personally experienced your teaching online, and it's like having your own instructor in your house. I can't tell you people how fun it is. She can correct your posture. She's fully with you. It's the whole experience. Um, what what did yoga brought to you in your life? How did it change your life personally?
Well, really, having been a movement junkie, like I said, a movement junkie, and I grew up with the idea of meditation, but I never put the two together in a real systemized way. And when I finally experienced what that was, what it really gave me was awareness and acceptance. And so awareness not only of how the body moves, but how the body moves in space, how the body feels in space. It's so interesting to me to know. I see so much that women particularly have this kind of disconnect with their bodies in space. Like I don't know if this happens to you, but I'm a professional dancer, stunt coordinator, all of that stuff. And yet I still run into walls from time to time. I still trip over nothing for no reason. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. And so the awareness that yoga gives you, it kind of gives you that spatial identity where you feel okay in your body and you know where you are in relative to everything around you. And the acceptance is being okay with that. Like, I run into walls and I trip over nothing, and that's okay. I used to get really embarrassed about it, but now I don't.
Yes, the way that I experience not being in my body is being almost above my body. Like, my consciousness is almost floating over there, and I'm not conscious of my body. Although I've been working on that for the past 2 years, and it's getting better. But you are right. A lot of women tend to not be present in their body in the present moment. So it does help. You mentioned two things that are crucial. It's awareness and acceptance. And you cannot change anything in life if you don't have awareness. First of all, that's where it starts.
Absolutely.
You can spend a lot of energy fighting against what is. I know, I've been there. And when you really want to change and improve your life, the energy that you're putting into the resistance is taken away from the energy that you could put into transformation and making things better. So that's really crucial to develop. And if yoga can help you do that, that's really fabulous. I would love to go into the aspect of releasing stress, because stress is so bad for us, and we live in a society where we constantly run, we don't stop, we don't think. Could you talk a little bit about releasing stress with yoga?
Sure, absolutely. So first, I just wanted to mention what you said reminded me of something that I read not too long ago. Recent medical studies are showing that stress is becoming the #1 factor for illness and disease in not just in the United States, but worldwide. They're finding more and more that stress causes so many problems. And like, even from the point of stress, like when you get a cold, the reason why you have a cold for a week instead of for 2 days is because of the level of stress in your life and in your body. So that aside, now we know what stress is and how bad it is. I want to say yoga helps release stress, and it helps you keep it off of you. It's like, so that whenever things that are typically stressful occur in your life, instead of taking it in and embodying that stress, instead it just kind of rolls off of you, kind of slides off of you. It doesn't get in you in the first place. And the way that happens, it helps, yoga helps you connect to your breath. When you connect to your breath, you connect to the present moment. You become mindful of what is happening. And when you become mindful of what is happening, you have the opportunity to react or not react to whatever it is that's happening to you in the moment. Whether it's your boss screaming at you, or whether it's your washing machine breaking, or whether it's just a movie that you're watching. If you have that moment, if you connect with your breath and have that moment to see, I have a choice here to either get mad about this or let it stress me out, or I can just breathe and let it go.
Yeah.
That is what yoga has taught me as far as stress goes. Also, I'm sorry. And then the more you practice it, the more you practice yoga, the more you practice being in that moment, having that opportunity. The more you recognize the opportunity to react or not react. And then it also helps you learn to let go.
And that's very useful since we're talking to single moms to those two things, to be in the moment and choose your response
Mm-hmm.
and let go of what is not serving you.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are really helping you if you're raising kids and doing it all on your own to be more efficient, to be happier, to be
Mm-hmm.
lighter, to be healthier. So that's really a big plus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As far as what I would like to go into is the flexibility, because that can be also a metaphor for life. We need to be flexible and adapt. I've seen myself with the class with you recently, because I'm going back to yoga after many years of not doing it, that my flexibility is very restricted and it creates pain in my body.
Mm.
How does yoga help us become more flexible?
So in approaching in approaching your body in a way that is aware and accepting, you practice certain poses. So poses that open up your hips, or poses that release the shoulders, things like that. If you, yeah, I know, I instantly was like, awareness. Whenever you practice these poses, especially if you haven't done them in a long time, it can feel tight and stiff. And if you approach them too rigorously, or if you go at it with a very strong determination kind of energy, if you like decide, I'm going to push 100% into this stretching pose, it can cause pain, because we do that. We tend to, instead of just being, kind of being in a exploration or exploratory mindset. Whenever we approach yoga, we think that we have to hit a certain look.
Yeah.
Our body needs to make a certain line, and that is doing yoga. My air quotes here. Instead of feeling it in your body, instead of feeling where you are and just being aware and accepting of where you are in the body, you'll notice that if you practice, maybe the first time that you try to touch your toes, it doesn't feel good in the back of the legs. It doesn't feel good in the lower back. But if you do it every day for 6 weeks, all of a sudden you become aware of how good it feels to release those muscles, because then it becomes less about stretching tightness and more about releasing the tension. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And actually, I suffer from chronic pain in my back and in my hips.
Mm-hmm.
And doing yoga will relieve the pain throughout my day.
Mm-hmm.
And because the tightness, like you said, the muscles aren't that tight that it really creates pain, it starts to really relax and feel better. Have
Yeah.
you experienced that with some of your students, maybe that were suffering from pain and suddenly the pain diminishes or completely disappears after they start a regular practice?
Every one of them.
Okay.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Because again, as women, we tend to wait until the tightness and the pain gets to a critical point before we address it.
Yeah.
And so most of my students, when I see them, they are already at such a level of tightness, of pain. They've pulled in so much, their inflammation is so high
Yeah.
that whenever we practice the first time, they're always like, oh, kind of afterwards.
Yes.
And then good, but also kind of scared, because they're worried that it's going to cause a reaction in their body, which happens from time to time. And whenever I work with people, depending on what their issue is, I can give, because of all the experience I have with doctors and chiropractors, I can give kind of, guidance on how to deal with the body as it reacts to opening and stretching for the first time.
Okay.
But
yeah.
that whenever women, like whenever they they go to a studio class for the first time and they experience this. Or sometimes whenever they decide, you know, it's 2019, I'm going to do yoga.
Yeah.
They'll go to YouTube and they'll do a YouTube video or two, and they'll have that same experience. But instead of, you know, researching how do I reduce this feeling in my body, how, you know, how do I deal with the changes that are happening, they just quit. And so
Yes.
they never get to that point where the practice gets you to a place where you feel better. And it's kind of like the whole idea that if you eat one good meal, your body may have a reaction to it. And so you may think, you know, oh, I didn't eat any sugar today and now I have a headache because I'm going through withdrawal. I better have some sugar.
Oh, yeah.
But you never get to the point where you're sugar free and you feel great being sugar free. So yoga is the same way. A lot of people, they'll do yoga once and then they'll decide it didn't work. And so they don't experience the beauty that is the practice.
And that actually happened to my mom. We
Oh,
went to a yoga class together, and because she did certain poses, she experienced um, pain in her intestine, like
oh,
something that felt like almost like something you didn't digest well, or stomach flu. And
mhm,
she never went back
mhm.
because she was afraid of it.
Right. Oh, yeah. And that's an
Maybe a
understandable feeling.
detox or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
And it's totally understandable. That is something, I mean, why wouldn't you fear? Why
yeah,
wouldn't you be afraid of a reaction like that if you don't have a guide to tell you, you know, this is okay.
exactly.
I know that this is scary, but it will pass. And the other side is wonderland.
And it's like, when you're detoxing, you were talking about food, you will have some reactions. Sometimes you even have eruptions on your skin or some kind of crazy symptom. And if nobody warned you about it and told you that it was a normal process, you will freak out. You will not, you will stop, usually stop. So it's
Yeah,
great to have a guide like you who's going to warn you about certain side effects of your body getting realigned.
right. Also, a lot of times, we tend to jump into things 100% instead of testing the waters or being a little having that kind of playful curiosity about things. And if our bodies are really, really stiff, maybe the really vigorous hot yoga is not the best place to
Yeah.
start. It might be better to start a gentle thing. But at the same time, sometimes people go into the gentle yoga whenever what they need is to kind of like shake things up and kind of get things moving. And so it's also kind of good to do a little bit, either talk to somebody, an instructor or a teacher who can help you kind of decide where you need to go, or just do some research, you know, online. You know, this is what I'm experiencing. Maybe you have something like fibromyalgia, chronic pain, and you can do a Google search, you know, what kind of yoga is good for that.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, maybe I have migraines, and so there are yoga sequences that are better for migraines,
Oh,
whereas there are yoga sequences that, if you don't know, could aggravate those things. And it's just like any kind of exercise, you really should just talk to somebody or do some research a little bit. And when you get started, if you haven't been doing yoga before, test the waters. Like, don't just, you know, don't feel like you have to force yourself to do any of the things. The number one goal of yoga is just to connect body and mind. And so if you're just sitting on your mat, if you're laying on your mat breathing, you're doing yoga.
for
And
people
so
who don't know, yoga means union, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Union of body, mind, and spirit. And
Yeah.
so it's the spirit thing that kind of freaks people out. So I like to kind of leave it, I kind of like to leave it as their exploration. Like,
Yeah.
I lead them through connecting mind and body, and their spirit gets involved. And that you can't stop that.
You you can go into that here because my audience is used to me talking about spirits and intuition and weird things even sometimes.
Oh, yeah, good.
So it addresses the three aspects of us.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. Yeah. But it is totally, that's one of the things I find so funny is about it is because usually when women come to me, especially I live in Kansas, which is in a really small town in Kansas, and so the education about yoga here is very limited, and so they think of it either as a religious practice, and so it's very scary, or it's only fitness. And so
Yeah.
then it's really scary because they think that only, super flexible, like runners and dancers can do yoga. And
Yeah.
so I like to kind of give them the taste test kind of, and I like to talk about, how it's spiritual in that it's emotional. You
Yeah.
connect with your emotional body, your physical body, your mental body, and your emotional body all come together in yoga. And the more connection you have with your emotional body, the more you realize that it is your connection with the universe. It's your connection with the divine. And so, and it's not something that you can exclude from yoga. And that's the thing that I love about it is I can talk only about your body in a class or with a client and only talk about the physical aspects, but the changes that are happening in the student, in the client, is absolutely emotional and spiritual.
And that's what's left out of yoga when you go to the gym and you go to those classes. It's not real yoga. From my experience, because I've been involved with yoga for several years in the past, it's almost, first of all, it's a metaphor for life because you need to be in the present moment, experiencing what you are experiencing and acknowledging your limits, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, pushing a little bit without pushing too much to get out of
Yes.
the comfort zone and grow, and
Yes.
really be gentle with yourself and not judgmental. Because you could see your neighbor who's folded into half and you can only go a certain distance. And you need to be with yourself without comparison.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I think could be said about yoga is if you are going on a spiritual quest, yoga could be your medium. If you don't like meditation per se, the real meditation, or other things that you can use to go on a spiritual quest, I noticed yoga will, like you said, you will get in touch with your emotional body and all the issues that need to come up to the surface will come up. Did you have that with your clients? Did you ever see someone who started addressing the problems or the call for healing through yoga?
Yes. Yeah. When I first started teaching, this is it's a little side story here, but when I started teaching yoga, I actually was teaching aerial yoga, and there's a whole long thing that goes into that. And if you ever want to know, you can go to my website and read about it. But I taught aerial yoga first, and many of the students that were drawn to my classes were drawn because they had tried yoga before, but didn't like, they didn't even like shavasana. They didn't like laying still and breathing. And so I would find them, they would be in the hammock. And so one of the nice things about the hammock is you can't see other people. Whenever you're laying in shavasana, it completely encloses you.
Oh, it's
So
like,
you're not worried about people looking at you
yeah.
as you're laying there dealing with your internal self. Your emotional state just comes up.
Wow.
But you can't tell that I'm watching, because I'd always sit on the floor and just watch the time and breathe for my students and just kind of open, do like cleansing thoughts and things like that for their benefit. And I could see, the first couple of classes, they would wriggle and they would they would adjust themselves, and they would, they'd have to kind of fuss around a little bit, because laying there feeling themselves, just feeling themselves, their internal selves, was really uncomfortable. And usually 4 or 5 classes in is whenever you would start to see that release and that just like the exhale, the unclenching. That's one of my favorite terms, the idea of unclenching your fist and just letting go of grasping onto what should be or what you think is supposed to be, and just being. And that usually happens the 4th or 5th class.
Just hearing you talk about that, my body went into like, oh, I need to take a deep breath. So I don't know if anybody in the audience experienced the same thing, but I took a deep breath because the letting go
Absolutely
feels so good.
Yes, there's a yogic term called a parigraha, which is the letting go of wanting or not wanting. Like, and it's kind of, it translates to non-hoarding, but it encompasses more than just material objects. It is the idea of not needing to collect every single Star Wars figure that there is in the planet, but it's also releasing control over things that you don't have control over.
Yes.
Like, it's the idea of and I love that whole idea that it's the unfurling of clasped fingers.
Yeah.
Just, it's so beautiful to me. And it's holding on to what you think you should be and just being who you are.
And that's an image that I personally use in my visualization with people, talking about thoughts and letting go of it, because we think we need to go with the thought at all costs. We have never been taught and trained to know that we're not that thought, we're not our past, we're not all those things that we're dragging with us, and we can just open and let it go. So that's progress, that's going forward, and that's getting more in touch with who you truly are, which is not your past, which is, like you were saying, the spirit part of you, the magnificent part of you.
Absolutely. I also like to use the image on that one. I like to use the image with my clients that imagine that you are standing on a sidewalk next to a busy street, and all of the cars rolling by you, those are your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
But you're not in the car. You're on the sidewalk watching.
Yeah. So I don't use cars, I use trains. When you work with a client, I know because I experience your work, but for people who don't know, you start with a practice that is totally customized to that client, right?
Absolutely.
Could you talk about the dangers of going and doing a practice without taking in consideration where your body is and what damage it can do? Because I know that for myself, you only gave me a certain set of mudras and movements to do for now until my body is getting further along on for flexibility or strength. You've seen, just let the audience know about the danger of doing too much or doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing yet.
Sure. Well, a lot of times people think that yoga is just stretching. And so they'll approach it with the same kind of vigor and all 100% in energy that you would see whenever you approach anything else. That's just kind of, especially in America, that's kind of the way that we are taught, is that it's all or nothing.
Yeah, and very goal oriented and very
Yeah, it's very much and I've encountered clients that when they show up, they have never done yoga before, but they want to do advanced poses that they have seen on Instagram. And and that's what they'll tell me. I'll say, because I like to do a little question and answer thing when we first get started, a little assessment consultation to get started with the session. And I do that even in my classes. Whenever I have multiple students, if I have multiple people in front of me, I'll just kind of like, I'll have them fill out something that just kind of gives me an idea of what's going on with their bodies. And then we'll just kind of say, you know, how are you feeling today? So that whenever we practice yoga, it's not as customized as a one-on-one session, but it is still taking into consideration the things that are going on. But one of the things that comes up is this whole idea that I have to look like something. And whenever you don't take into consideration that every single body is unique, even even though it is possible to work towards a particular pose, but you have to ask yourself, well, okay, sorry, I'm getting off track there. the dangers can be that you can injure yourself physically, and it is showing up more and more. There's more and more people who are injuring themselves in yoga class. And there are more and more teachers even who are injuring themselves in yoga class because they are pushing themselves beyond that level of point, that level of challenge that they need to be going to. The lineage of yoga that I was trained under, and I like to say lineage as opposed to style of yoga, because even within each style, there's so many teachers nowadays that you're not, that it doesn't really say anything to say that I'm a vinyasa teacher anymore, which I am. I'm a vinyasa teacher, but my lineage comes down through certain teachers, where the focus has always been finding that edge between comfort and challenge.
Yeah.
And then instead of pushing it, you play on it. And so it's supposed to feel good, and it should be a good challenge. And sometimes what we are taught, what other teachers kind of push for, is just do 10 more reps, or just do, just try to put your foot behind your head. I mean, these are extreme examples, but as opposed to, maybe this is where you are right now. Maybe one day you'll be able to put your foot behind your head, but today let's work on just holding onto your foot in front of you.
And so when you say it's supposed to feel good, I would like to understand that more, because maybe I'm mistaken, but what I'm looking for is not that completely relaxed feel good, but that little bit of tension, but not really painful, just getting a little bit uncomfortable, challenging, but not completely relaxed and feel good like if I was sitting on a chair, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. And that is something, thank you for pointing that out, because I do have to remember a lot of the people that I work with, they are not movement junkies like I am. And so the awareness of opening, the awareness of the gentle, very gentle push is what I'm talking about when I say feel good, because as you progress through this, as you progress in a practice, as time goes on, you will recognize that feeling. It's not relaxed and it's not painful. It is that line in between that feels, you recognize that energy, you recognize the opening of the body that opens the energy field in your body, that releases the tension. Because there are ways that you can, even just sitting in your chair, if you sit in your chair at your laptop for 8 hours, you actually are building tension, even though you are relaxed. Your body isn't working, but you are building tension. And it's not just because of the work that you're doing, it's because of the way your body is being held in space. Okay. And so, the feel good I'm talking about is that line between challenge and relaxing.
Have you seen examples of how it changed people's life to start a yoga practice with you, and in completely unrelated areas of their life, stuff that changed or stuff that they were suddenly feeling confident to do or capable of doing that they were not before they started yoga?
Absolutely. I actually have a client who She wanted to learn, again, she came to me with a very specific idea. She actually sent me a YouTube video and said, I want to do this.
Oh.
She had never done yoga before. And so I modified it for her and helped her, you know, and we talked about the reasons why she wanted to do these things and stuff like that. And what popped up was she suddenly had this confidence to approach her business in a different way.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, and also one of the reasons why she approached me in the first place was because she was embarrassed to go to a yoga class in public without knowing how to do yoga. And so after working with me for a few sessions, she was able to attend classes with that confidence that she didn't look like an idiot in class, which part of what she learned was that you can't look like an idiot in yoga class because you are perfect just the way that you are.
Yeah.
No
So
one is judging you, and you don't need to judge yourself.
what I find, and especially with yoga, with women, when I coach and women around me, is that they wouldn't even start because they don't want to look like an idiot. And just that reaction alone tells you a lot about the way they process life in their head and the stories that they tell themselves that they have to be perfect and they
Well, not
have
only that, but
to show the perfect self. And
right.
that it is vulnerable. They don't want to go into vulnerability and start and just be such not advanced. It's just that alone can be extremely transforming for
Mm-hmm.
someone.
Absolutely. We are, again, especially in America, but worldwide, women, girls are ridiculed for so many things, for the way that we look, for whenever we try new when you're 13 years old and you decide you're going to try a new fashion, you're going to dye your hair bright red, or you're going to wear that bright red lipstick for the first time, and you go to school and you're ridiculed for many different reasons because you are too pretty, you're not pretty enough, you have to it's so hard to be a girl. and we take a lot of that with us as we grow up, that whole idea that we have to be so careful about how we portray ourselves in front of other people, that it even bleeds into how we feel about ourselves when we're alone. I remember being in my early 20s and wanting to do some exercises, and I got a hold of a belly dance workout tape video. This tells you how long ago that it was a tape. It was a VHS tape. And I was completely by myself in my house. My curtains were drawn. I put it in the VHS player and I turned it on and I just watched it. I didn't do it because I was embarrassed, even to be alone, in the off chance that someone might walk in, or even if someone would call me. And this was before cell phones, so like I knew that they wouldn't be able to see me, but I didn't want to get caught trying to do belly dancing.
Yeah, we have a inner critic on steroids.
Yeah.
And it's and because we think like that, because that's the way we see ourselves, of course the world is reflecting every single thought and belief that we have about ourselves. So of course that's what we are going to encounter.
Right.
So it's a vicious cycle because it will reinforce that belief and then you cannot get out of it. So it's great to have a way to maybe start with someone, although we need to let go of that need for perfection, but that could be a process that could be a lifetime one. But being able to start with you at home, for example, will make it easier. Like you said, your client then can go to a yoga class and maybe she won't be as advanced as some people are in there, but she won't be a beginner and she will feel better.
Exactly.
As a trainer and an instructor, if somebody's just starting now on their own, what advice would you give them before they even go see someone like you, or if they want to do it just by themselves? Where should they start? What would be the do's and the don'ts?
I would say be gentle with yourself. Take a breath. Worry about the breath first. So even if you don't feel comfortable sitting still and meditating, try to just be gentle with yourself and doing movement. There are there are thousands of total beginner videos on YouTube. And a lot of times what people don't realize is they can do a search like that, total beginner, complete beginner. Okay. And be okay with that. It's a YouTube search. No one knows. And if you approach that video, if you approach following along with that video from a point of view of, I'm just going to see what this is like. Instead of saying, I have to do this, I have to look like this person, I have to. If you just say, I'm going to see what this is like, and I'm going to breathe. One of the things I say in almost every class that I have is the number one rule of yoga is breathe. You don't have to do anything else. You can lay on your mat and breathe, and you're going to be fine. But you will find that if you try a pose out, try to bend at the hips, touch your toes, bend your knees while you're doing it. But if you just breathe there, even if you have to hold on to a chair, even if you have to, lean up against a wall or something to do it, absolutely okay. But breathe. And whenever it stops feeling good, stop doing it.
Before we go further, I just want to remind people, maybe if they join us now, just put #replay in the comments. And if you want to be notified next time, just put the comment notify by itself, and you'll be added to our list to be notified. The thought that I wanted to talk about right now was that, like you said, in America, I just came back from a trip overseas, and it reminded me, because I've been in America for so long, that I'm very driven, and it's black and white. It's either you do it perfectly or you don't, or you fail, and failure is somehow trying to be avoided at all costs, and you push yourself. It's great, especially if you are doing it all by yourself, or doing a business. You need to be able to push yourself when it's necessary, but you also need to be okay with not pushing and just laying on your mat and breathing. When you mentioned that, my first initial thought would be, I'm not doing anything, so why? It's not enough. And catch those thoughts and become aware that something needs to be let go of. So just that, if you want to start, because we tend to be too harsh and too pushy. Right. And yoga is the opposite of that. So do you have classes as groups online, or how does that work? Because I know you do one-on-one, but is that the only thing you do, or do you do?
No, actually I have a membership. And in the membership, you get, if you choose to join the membership, you get 5 days a week, daily yoga classes. They're live streamed, between 20 and 35 minutes each, and each day of the week is a different theme. So some of them are very vigorous, they're vinyasa flows, so that kind of gets the blood pumping, it gets your circulation going, it helps you become stronger, more flexible. And then other classes are yin or restorative, to help you learn to let go and to release and relax. So you get both sides. I'm very much a balance I believe in balance. And I think that for a lifelong practice, and not just yoga practice, but business practice, personal practice, spiritual practice, whatever you want to call it, you have to have both sides. You have to know when to push yourself, and you also have to know when to just release.
Yeah.
And let go. And so my membership is online. It's totally online. It's 5 days a week, and it's $25 a month, which is not bad, I think.
Well, now, because if people listen to that in a year, it may have gone up. But if you catch it while it's cheap.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I only just started it in December, so and so it's still in its infancy. But I feel like it was the best way to approach this, because most of my students, most of my clients, the people that I meet, they want a regular practice, and that's
Yeah.
really a great approach to yoga, is the idea that you're not just going to do it once.
Yeah.
You're going to do it consistently over your lifetime, whether it's once a week or whether it's 5 days a week or anything in between. And so I wanted to be able to give people access to that, to be able to choose, okay, so I need to practice once a week, and I need it to be a vibrant practice because I'm kind of a lethargic person. Me right
Yeah.
here. I need to push myself a little bit, so I'm going to practice, one vigorous class a week. Then they show up to my class on Mondays. And in the membership, you also get, of course, replays. The classes stay available for members. I have a membership vault of all of the classes that I have held so far, and so you can go back if you decide you want to do, you really, really loved Friday's class. You can go back, bookmark it, and then you can do it. You can practice along with it as many times as you like. And so that's kind of what I'm offering as far as that goes. I have 2 tiers in the membership. The first tier is that $25, and you get access to all of that stuff. But if you want one-on-one, sessions with me as well, you can go for the secondary tier, which is of course a little more. And so, but you get monthly sessions, one-on-one with me, 90 minutes, to help you kind of decide what classes to take and how far to push yourself and that kind of stuff. And we talk about goal setting and how to achieve those things, not just in yoga, but how yoga helps you achieve goals in other aspects of your life.
Oh, wow.
So,
and if someone wanted just the beginner, the basic membership, and they have a question, do they have a way to ask you questions, or do you have like a Facebook group?
Absolutely. Right now I have a free Facebook group. Of course, I try to get all of my members to be a part of it as well. But in the free Facebook group, you get, of course, I'm there, so I answer questions, and I'm more than happy to answer questions. I also have a YouTube show called the 5-Minute Yoga Break, because I believe everyone has 5 minutes, and so they can do yoga in 5 minutes. And I show it live, so I live stream it in the group, and then a week later I put it out on YouTube. I also have, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I also have a podcast now about yoga and business. And so it's called Your Yoga Life, the podcast, excuse me. And it talks about, again, how yoga helps your business. And so if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, then that podcast is something that you might find interesting, because it takes the aspects of yoga, like learning to be flexible, learning to be strong, and translates it into how to run your business.
And I know for my single moms, stress and very little time is an issue. So your 5-minute yoga break, it would be amazing to start with. Going to put links in the description of this episode, but where can we reach you? What's your website?
You can reach me at my website, vivianewolfe.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Viviane Wolfe Yoga and Movement. And I'm Facebook is kind of where I hang out right now, so that's definitely where you can find me.
WOLFE, right?
Absolutely. And Viviane is Viviane.
Yes.
And I'll give you
the last name. I've never seen it with an E before, so I was like, oh, that's new. That's
I can't do anything simply.
No, but that's pretty. I don't know, that brought balance for me. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I do like an E on the end of both. It's good.
One last word before we part. Something you would like to tell the audience, or something I don't know, and something you want to leave us with?
Sure. It seems like one of the things that we kept touching on today, and I really want to get that, I'd like to touch on that one more time, is Yoga is like life. Yoga is like your business. It needs to be approached as a practice and not as something that you can perfect. It is not, I can't do yoga or I am a master of yoga. It is not that black and white.
Mm-hmm.
You can take tiny baby steps. You can do 5 minutes a day. You can do 5 minutes once a week and make progress in your yoga. And you will find that doing that bleeds into your life, that you will be able to take those same kind of small steps in, whether it's in your life practice, maybe it's you made a goal to keep your house clean because you have trouble with cleaning your house, like me. It'll help you learn to manage how you practice that thing, how you
Oh,
practice your business, how you practice your life. And you can do it 5 minutes a day.
that thing is great because I have a tendency to be perfectionistic with that too. It's either I want it all in order, and I go to frenzies sometimes where I start doing everything in one shot, and that's crazy. That's not the way to approach it. So that's a good example for me, at least. Um, I forgot. I always ask my audience, my guests, 2 questions because I'm very big on self-love. And I noticed that a lot of women don't know where to start with that. They don't even know what it means. But it can mean many things to many people, and everyone has her own definition. What is your own definition of self-love?
Self-love for me is that awareness and acceptance. Totally in not just being aware of where I am, like saying, okay, I am 180 pounds, but being okay with it. I am 180 pounds.
That's great.
And I'm a yoga teacher, but I eat meat.
Yeah.
And for me, it's I am aware, but I also accept it. This is where I am in my practice right now. This is where I am in my journey of life right now. And I'm okay with that. To me, that's love.
So you actually answered my second question, which was how you practice it in your life. That's the way you practice it.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for that because this is big. Acceptance is crucial, and a lot of us struggle with that from time to time, depending on the situation.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Viviane, for being our guest today. That
It
was
was
very,
my pleasure.
very rich to understand yoga better and for people to understand that it's not just a fitness activity, it's way more than that. And you can use it to improve your life and feel better with yourself. It's an amazing tool.
Absolutely. It's changed my life. It's changed the life of my students and my clients. And I feel like the reason why it's growing in the world is because people are understanding that it transforms you
Yes.
physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Thank you. For our audience, you can, if you listen on audio, you can always come and meet us here on Facebook. The new name of my page is The French Life Coach. And I may change it later because I'm not sure yet, but that's what it is for now. And you can submit questions either on Facebook, private messaging me if you want me to address certain topics. If you're a single mom and you're struggling with something, because being single and doing it all is brutal. I know because that's where I am. And you sometimes need some tools and practices to get back to your center. Yoga is one of them. There are many others. So don't hesitate to ask questions and submit topics. I'll see you next week with another episode. Meanwhile, go and love yourself.